We are starting with the various neural mechanisms which are involved in posture and movement control in our body. Specific learning objectives will be students will be able to understand at the end of this session the overall organization of the motor control system in our body, classification of various postural reflexes, postural reflexes in various preparations like spinal, decerebrate, midbrain, and decorticate. Then what are the various clinical features of decerebrate rigidity, cortical motor areas and their functions, representation of various body parts in motor homunculus, and role of various components of neuroaxis in regulation of posture and movement. Let us see. We have already studied that various impulses which are coming from the supraspinal centers. Which are the supraspinal centers? Like brainstem, cerebral cortex, cerebellum, and basal ganglia. These signal via the descending pathways or the fiber are continuously being influencing spinal motor neurons. And when the spinal motor neuron get these impulses, they start discharging continuously to cause muscle contraction. And because of which the movement is ultimately taken. Movement is absolutely required while performing various activities. And not only while performing various activities, but at the same time in order to maintain the posture in order to perform that activity in a correct way. As we can see in this particular diagram or flow chart, see there is a coordination between cerebral cortex, cerebellum, basal ganglia, where the plan of movement is formed ultimately in conjunction with the various motor areas in the cerebral cortex. By the way of spinocerebellum and brainstem motor nuclei, the signal is being sent to spinal cord, from where the spinal motor neurons they become activated and they ultimately cause contraction of. And this contraction of muscle is ultimately responsible for regulation of posture and while performing various kinds of. Command is conveyed to spinal motor neurons from cortex by the corticospinal tract, from basal ganglia and cerebral cortex via corticobulbar pathways, and from cerebellum via its projection to the brainstem nuclei that influence the activities of extrapyramidal system. Most of this we have already gone through. Functions of supraspinal inputs which control the spinal motor neurons. What we have studied, these are the spinal motor neurons which send signal by the way of spinal motor neurons to the motor fibers in order to cause the contraction of the muscle. But this spinal motor neuron, whatever signals they are sending ultimately to the muscles, these neurons are being controlled by the higher centers. And what is this higher centers called? These are called the supraspinal inputs. What function they are brought about? Initiation and execution of voluntary activities. They are not only responsible for this initiation and execution of voluntary activities, but at the same time, coordination of these activities and smoothing of the movements that is being performed during the performance of these activities is also the function of supraspinal inputs. Postural adjustments to provide a stable background for movement. Once the movement is initiated, activities in the muscle, tendons, ligaments, joints, and skin, it provides sensory feedback to the central nervous system by dorsal and ventral spinocerebellar tract, which is ultimately going to the cerebellum, which immediately interacts with the motor cortex and corrects the motor activities if at all it is needed. As we can see in the diagram, the cerebral cortex, where the motor planning is being taking place, the command of whatever is being planned is sent by the various command centers to the effector structure, which may be the muscle. And because this effector structure is bringing about function, the mechanical effect is brought about, which may be contraction of the muscle or movement of the body. whatever effect is brought about, that will be sensed by the sensory structure, and ultimately this sensation will be sent again to the central nervous system in order to undergo evaluation. Apart from this, various proprioceptive inputs via dorsal column pathways goes to sensory cortex, which project to the motor cortex, and then from the motor cortex via the corticospinal and corticopulbar pathways make the necessary changes in the motor output, so that ultimately smooth execution of the movement is brought. Smoothing, coordination of movements, and postural adjustment during the movement are mainly regulated by the extrapyramidal system, which we have already learned. Let us see the various levels of integration of mechanism involved in regulation of posture and movement. What are the various levels? These integration is brought about at various levels like spinal cord, medulla, midbrain, cortex, basal ganglia, and cerebellum. As we can see in this flow chart, we divided it into three major categories: highest level, which is the cerebral cortex; middle level, subcortical centers; and the lowest level, which includes brainstem as well as the spinal. As we can see, the highest level and middle level. Highest level, association cortex and the other brain region, whereas in the middle level, the sensory motor cortex, basal ganglia, cerebellum, and the subcortical nuclei as well as brainstem. There is a continuous give and take between the highest level or the cerebral cortex and the subcortical centers. This give and take between the cortex and the subcortical center is mainly responsible in order to generate commands for voluntary movements, plan the movement, adjust the posture while performing that particular movement. And not only this, the coordination of movement is also brought about because of the give and take which is continuously going on between the cerebral cortex and the subcortical. Ultimately, whatever motor signals are there, in order to perform the motor activity, these signals by the way of descending pathways coming to the spinal cord, and then by the way of spinal motor neurons, they are responsible for execution of the various. When the movement is being performed, whatever changes are being taking place, these changes are sensed by the receptor in the muscle, tendon, joints, and skin, and the feedback will be again going to the spinal cord and to the central nervous. Multiple posture control system includes whole series of nuclei, spinal cord, brainstem, and cerebral cortex. They are concerned with not only the static posture but also with initiation and control of various movements. Maintenance of posture and balance is accomplished by various postural reflexes, which have three different components: afferents, integrating centers, and the efferents. What are these afferents? They are from the eyes, vestibular apparatus, and proprioception. Integrating centers, ultimately, the afferent will be sending this information to the integrating center, which is the neuronal network in the brainstem as well as in the spine. After being integrated, this information is being integrated in the integrating center. The efferent will be coming by the way of alpha motor neuron to the skeletal muscle, and the contraction of muscle will be brought about, the movement will be performed, and whatever posture is required while performing of that movement will be brought about. Let us see the various postural reflexes that is required for maintenance of posture and balance. These are of two main varieties: phasic and dynamic reflexes, and the second variety is tonic or the static. What they are mainly doing, they are responsible mainly for maintaining the upright posture, also maintain a stable possible background for voluntary activity by providing constant necessary adjustments. Let us see. Phasic or the dynamic reflexes. The main feature is it is short term in nature and produces transient movements. What is transient? Which is of brief duration, and therefore it is short term in nature. For immediate change in posture, where it is required, for example, phasic stretch reflex, writing reflexes, and vestibular placing reactions. The another variety is tonic or the static reflexes. which produce sustained contracture of the muscle and provide stable background for maintaining posture. Also adjust the posture during movement. What are the examples? Tonic stretch reflexes, tonic neck reflexes, and tonic labyrinthine reflexes. Another major factor that control along with this postural reflexes, the posture is variation in threshold of spinal stretch reflexes, which is caused by changes in the motor neuron excitability and changes in the rate of gamma motor neuron discharge. Motor neuron excitability and gamma motor neurons, alpha motor neurons, we have already considered while we were learning about the stretch reflex and the muscle splitter. Let us see. When neural axis is transected, activities integrated below the transection are cut off or released from the control of higher brain sectors. And therefore, as the inhibitory control is removed, the activities ultimately become hyperactive. Why? Because of loss of inhibitory control by the higher centers. Second reason, loss of deafferentation of reaction so that it no longer fits into the gross pattern of motor activity. And the ultimate reason is denervation hypersensitivity of the centers below the transection. What is denervation hypersensitivity? That we have already studied while studying various lesions across the spinal cord. Let us see the role of different parts of central nervous system in posture control, and this can be studied in various animals in which neural axis or CNS has been removed. According to the lesion made into the central nervous system, the posture can be studied in different preparation like posture in spinal preparation, posture in decerebrate preparation, posture in midbrain preparation, and in decorticate. In this particular session, we are particularly going to have a talk about the posture in spinal preparation. Let us see what is spinal preparation. Spinal animal, for example, cat, influence of brain on the spinal cord is removed. Section is made below the medulla, below C5, so that diaphragm activity remains intact. Also below the mid-thoracic level, so that cardiovascular activity also remains intact, as we have seen in complete transection of the spinal cord. Can we see here in this particular diagram? Let us proceed. Complete transection of the spinal cord clinically is seen in 3 different stages. This also we have considered earlier. Stage 1, stage of spinal shock or flaccid. It occurs immediately after the transection and characterized by marked decrease in all the functions and activity below the level of the transection. Stage 2, stage of reflex activity. Gradually, the patient is starting to gain few functions. And the last stage is stage of failure of reflex activity. Let us see. Stage 1, as I said, stage 1 is stage of spinal shock or the flexivity. It occurs immediately after the transection and characterized by marked decrease in all the functions and activities below the level of the transection. Causes of spinal shock. Why we are labeling it as shock? It is not because of decrease in the blood pressure that is responsible for the shock, as fall is equally marked in the headward part also, which shows no flaccidity after the transection. It may be due to the stoppage of tonic bombardment of spinal motor neurons by facilitatory impulses in the descending path, and because of which all the activities below the level of the transection may be reduced, and because all the activities have been reduced and the flaccidity has taken place, the condition may have been termed as shock. Stage of reflex activity or recurrence. Gradually, patient gain few functions like autonomic reflexes, muscle tone, and reflex movement. What are the supporting reactions? Once the spinal reflexes appear in the second stage, their threshold steadily drops. For example, even the minor noxious stimulation will be responsible for prolonged withdrawal or the flexor response or the reflex. Stretch reflex also is becoming hyperactive. The resulting posture is thus reinforced and modified by the supporting reactions. The supporting reaction is thus reinforced and modified by supporting reaction, sorry, resulting posture is thus reinforced and modified by supporting reactions, which are of two different types: local static postural reaction and segmental static postural reactions. Local static postural reaction is of two varieties: positive supporting reaction, which is also called as magnetic reaction, and negative supporting. Let us see one by one. Local static postural reaction, positive supporting, or the magnetic reaction. When a finger is placed on the sole of the foot and then withdrawn, the limb extends following the examining, as we can see in the given diagram also. This is called the positive support reaction or the magnetic reaction, as the limb is withdrawn like a magnet. Receptors involved are the tactile receptors, and afferent pathways involve both tactile and proprioceptive afferents. Motor responses transform the limb into a rigid pillar that resists the gravity and thereby help maintain the posture. Other limbs also become rigid and support them, and therefore this particular reaction is termed as the supporting reaction. Coming on to negative supporting reaction, stretching of the extensors causes disappearance of positive supporting reaction, which is said to be the negative supporting reaction. This helps a limb to be used for activities other than supporting the body weight, like initiation of walking movements. Second variety, segmental static postural reaction. As the threshold for withdrawal reflex is spatially low, even a minor noxious stimuli cause not only prolonged withdrawal reflex or withdrawal of that particular limb, but at the same time there occurs extension of opposite limb. What we call it as the crossed extensor response. Also mark flexion and extension pattern in other three limbs, which is in order to maintain the posture while the withdrawal reflex is brought up. And this particular shifting pattern is said to be the shifting reaction. Let us have a concept of locomotion generator. Just now we have seen spinal animals can stand and walk with appropriate stimulation. It indicates that there is some circuit which is located within the spinal cord somewhere which produces locomotion. And this particular circuit which is responsible for locomotion and which is located in the spinal cord is called as central pattern generator for locomotion. As such, the central pattern generator for locomotion in the spinal cord is of two types. One is located in the cervical region, and this is especially for locomotion to be brought about in the upper. And the second variety is located in the lumbar region, which is for the lower. Discharge of a locomotor generator in midbrain, which is also called as mesencephalic locomotion generator. This particular center have a facilitatory influence on the central pattern generators in the spinal cord, which are a group of interneurons. And when it is receiving the facilitatory influences, these facilitatory influences of the CPGs in the spinal cord, they stimulate ultimately the spinal motor neuron, and spinal motor neuron then cause alternate contraction of the flexor as well as extensor of the limb, and thereby the locomotion or the movement is. In spinal animal, as the influence of MLG on the central pattern generator is interrupted, central pattern generator requires appropriate stimulation to be activated to cause the last stage of failure of reflex activity. In chronic spinal patients, due to lack of proper nutrition and hygiene, repeated general infections or toxemia, failure of reflex activity develops. It becomes difficult to elicit reflexes as the threshold for all the reflexes is tremendously increased and mass reflexes also disappear. Muscle wasting is taking place and thereby the muscle is becoming flaccid. Bed sores are developing at the pressure points, which results in decupitous ulcers. Immunity is suppressed due to protein depletion. Poor healing of the ulcers lead to septicemia. Prolonged immobilization and lysis of protein matrix of the bone is mainly responsible for hypercalcemia, and as hypercalcemia is resulted, it is leading to hypercalcemia. This results in formation of stone in the urinary tract, that causes frequent urinary tract infections. Frequent septicemia and uremia are cause of death in most of the patients. However, early and appropriate use of antibiotics, glucocorticoids, and proper nutrition and nursing care prolong the life of such. With this, we comes to an end of regulation of posture and various movement in the spinal preparation. What happens in other sort of preparation like midbrain, decorticate, and so on will be dealt with in the next class. Thank you.